Chiefs are picking up speed down the home stretch, looking towards the playoffs. What can they do? Who's leading the way? Patrick Mahomes, the wide receivers, moving the ball is the key. We're going to get into all of it today on Locked On Chiefs.
From the land of the free and the home of the Chiefs, this is the Locked On Chiefs podcast.
Welcome back, everybody. Hope you enjoyed your holidays. We're here to talk ball, and we're looking forward to it. This is Locked On Chiefs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day for free. Check this one out. Thanks for making us your first listen. And hey, check out another show. The draft show is kind of particular to me. I enjoy that one, but you might like hockey or something else too. Plenty of content here on the network. Lot today because this is just the end in sight, getting to that playoff run. The Chiefs have something special. We always know that. But what does Patrick Mahomes do from here? Who's going to help him catch the ball? Can they sustain this? And what comes next? I personally feel like Patrick's evolution has been great this season, especially given the lack of expectations before we started this season and what he's become in terms of discipline and spreading the ball around. When we look back at this game, he moved the ball around a lot again.
Yeah, and I don't see how you even ask the question of who the MVP of the NFL is at this point. Yeah, he has Travis Kelce. That's pretty much his entire passing offense. I mean, yeah, Juju's here. MVS has had a couple of okay games. So is Justin Watson. Sky Moore really hasn't been involved. All the wide receivers really are struggling in different ways. Tony is trying to actually get involved in the offense. I think that's going to continue to evolve over the next couple of weeks. And as they get ready for the playoff run, I do think Mecole Hardman is back next week, which I think is going to be a big boon for this offense.
Yeah, it's just another way to attack. It's another way to move the ball that makes defenses have to prepare that much more. And I think really when you think about it as a stable of area attacks, you have the downfield threats, you have the crossing threats, you have the flares that we've been seeing so many balls go to the running backs lately because that's what the defense is unable to cover right now. But Cole just allows you to send an arrow right through all of it. And I do think that lifts everything. What do you expect from him coming back?
I just look at what he is able to bring to this team, and his speed is something that they don't have anywhere else. And that, to me, is really the big thing that you start looking at how he is going to be effective when it comes to him catching the ball. And is it, just out in space? Is he going on go routes? What is he doing? Is he coming around and doing a jet sweep type motion? Who knows what he's doing on offense? But his speed is something that brings a different element to this team that they're severely lacking right now, because a guy like MVS, who they went out and got to be a starter, is not being as effective as you would wish that he would be. Yeah,
and I know there's a lot of disappointment around here. It's felt like kind of a bobbing effect. Above water makes a play or two, back down below the water, whether it's a drop, whether it's not running through a route. Very up and down for MVS. But I will say this. The clutch, I think, right now still outweighs the negative for me, especially when, we're talking about what can happen come playoffs and how the offense can attack defenses.
And I understand where you're going with that. I will say this. I do not have updated stats. They are not updated yet, but he didn't have a single catch, and he was targeted twice. So I think you can kind of figure it out. His catch percentage went down 56.1 for the year for Valdez-Scantling. That's targets versus how many he's actually caught. That doesn't actually get into how many he's dropped, but that's the real problem, is the drops. It's not necessarily he's getting targeted a lot and the throw is missing him by a long distance, although that's happened as well. Mahomes and MVS have never really gotten on the same page, and we're now getting ready to go into January in just a couple of days.
Yeah, that is the tough part. I'm going to pull it up. His drop rate is sitting at 11.9% on the year. That is tough. You'd like to see that lower. Can you live with 8-9%? Yes, but definitely you want that under 10, especially when you pay the man to be a fixture in the offense. And it's great to have young guys, whether it's Tony or Moore, or even Hardman, who's yes, a vet, but he's still on the younger side. He still hasn't seen as many snaps and as many coverages as MVS has. So there's still more to get out of that. The big question mark becomes is, what can you do right now between now and January to elevate the offense?
There's a lot of questions when it comes to that. Bringing Michael Hardman back, and I think bringing back is going to be huge. Tony coming back and actually getting more involved in the offense is also going to be huge. Hardman gives them the ability to stretch the field vertically. Tony gives them the ability to stretch the field horizontally as well as vertically. It's just a different type of game that Tony brings to this offense that they don't really have anybody that can do what he can do right now. And he is and I know people hate this, but he is Tyreek Hill-like in some of the ways he moves. And he's even better than Hill in some of the ways he moves. I'm not calling him Tyreek Hill. I'm not saying he's better than Tyreek Hill. But there are similarities to their game and things that Tony can do that Tyreek Hill couldn't. And I think that it's the suddenness and it's a change of direction and those types of things that Tony does that makes him so dangerous on the field.
Yeah. And I think having them back together with Sky Moore, I think the three of them can create some interesting, at least double stacks, if not triangle releases that can mirror some of the things you were able to accomplish by running routes that effectively work together, like we saw with Wasp in the Super Bowl back in the day. That is still on the table, and there's a lot you can get there, but it takes the quarterback to deliver the ball and understand where it's all going. Luckily, the Chiefs have a guy that's pretty dang good, and he is at the forefront of the MVP race. We're going to talk about him after we get to these guys coming up from our pals.
Yeah, and I want to tell you about our friends over at Ultimate GM. This actually is a football game that you download for your phone or your tablet. This is a fantastic game. I really enjoyed playing this. Still actually going through and trying to sim and see what I can do. I am really geeked out by our new partner and sponsor of today's episode, the mobile game Ultimate Football GM. Have you ever dreamed of becoming an NFL GM and managing your own football franchise? Well, your dream can come true, and this game is definitely for you. Manage every strategic aspect of your team, play through the season, and lead your team to glory. You're responsible for hiring the right coaches and coordinators, trading players, making draft picks, navigating your franchise through free agency and the draft, and all the ups and downs of the season. And just a little bit of a hint for me, watch what you're spending your money on. It can go very quickly, and you can be struggling for seasons trying to get some of that money back because there is a big difference between cap space and cash. So be sure to pay attention to that. All this in a challenging and realistic game world. Ultimate Football GM is completely free and affordable, and you can play offline, play on the go as you want and when you want to. Locked On Chiefs listeners get a 100% free boost to their franchise when using promo code Locked On in all caps in the game store. That's Locked On in all caps, so you can make sure to check it out today. To download the game, just visit ultimate-gm.com or look it up on the App Store. That's ultimate-gm.com. Ultimate GM, Ultimate Football GM. Start your dynasty today.
I would like to start a dynasty. I'll take Patrick Mahomes. Oh, wait. That makes too much sense. It would work, but especially given that right now, Patrick is in the lead for the MVP race yet again. I don't see any way that changes unless something just disastrous happen, and I can't see that happening either. So it comes back to me in a season where everyone downplayed his success possibilities because of the wide receiver core that we talked about earlier. It just stands out to me that this is a maturation of a quarterback that has already been elite, that is taking the next step forward in understanding how to contain himself and how to use all of his weapons rather than focusing on just two of them. Yes, the offense still runs through Travis Kelce, but with everything else added, this is right where he needs to be right now and take this MVP regular season and take it forward into the playoffs. Do you think that he wins the MVP?
If he doesn't, he's getting robbed. I'm being completely honest. Sorry about that. He is in a position right now where he is the reason the Chiefs are where they are. I like what Jalen Hurts has done for the Eagles. I can respect it. I respect what Tua has done for the Dolphins. But Tua has Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. Pretty good players.
Yeah. Tyreek
Hill is the best receiver in football this year. I don't think that you can really contest that at this point. And you look at what Jalen Hurts has, he's got
this guy named Brown.
Yeah, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith. I mean, Dallas Goedert's been hurt a lot of the year, and they're getting him back. And, Jalen Hurts is was out this past week. I think he's possibly going to miss next week. So his chances are going way down when you start talking MVP. I just don't think it is being given enough credit what Mahomes has done with the cast that he has around him. Yes, Juju has played very well. Yes, I think Juju has a chance to possibly get over 1,000 yards this year. I do think that it's possible that he will get to 1,000 yards. I think he's only about 100 yards short right now after the Seattle game. So it would not shock me, and a little more than 100 yards short. He's about 60 yards per game the last 2 weeks. I think he could get to 1,000 yards. Travis Kelce has 1,200 yards on the season. He is the only one that has a great season for Kansas City statistically when it comes to wide receivers or tight ends. Then you look at McCall Hardman, he's under 300 yards. Sky Moore is at 220. Tony has 80 some right now. MVS has 630. Noah Gray, 265. Justin Watson, 221. Fortson, 108. And Fortson's out until the playoffs at this point. So you start looking at what these players are, what he has around him and who he has around him. Jerick McKinnon has almost 500 500 receiving yards.
Yeah,
it's almost second on the team. It's almost
and it's dealing from Mahomes and being able to get
third
there,
on the team. Sorry,
not pressing towards the downfield routes, not pressing to Travis every single game. We've seen games this season where he has pressed too much, and he did
on the first drive against Seattle.
Mm-hmm.
He pressed too much. I think he had the opportunity to actually get the ball and start the drive and get them going in the right direction on the first drive against Seattle, and he tried to push the ball downfield instead of taking what was there. And I think he probably could have at least had another set of downs, if not more.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And that said, the more that he settles into this process, the more that he understands that it is about the collective. And honestly, that helps his MVP chances with more yardage, more touchdowns, et cetera. I think that settles into him sealing that up. I do want to say, though, and I hinted at this over the weekend. If you guys missed our post-game show, go check that out with Matt Derrick. I do feel like this talk that was before Jalen Hurts got hurt, that he was right up there with Mahomes because of his running ability, even though his throwing touchdown and yardage output was nowhere near Mahomes. I do think that the scrambles of late that Patrick is using his legs when he has an opportunity has been really what sealed this MVP for me, that he can do it all. Is he as dynamic as Jalen Hurts? No. But he is a guy that not only deals the ball to all these receivers and can get out of pressure and do all the horizontal throws that we know that he has in his arsenal, but when he has to take it with his legs, again, when that's the mature thing to do, they give you the opportunity to take what's there. That's the evolution of Patrick that I see here.
Yeah, and I think that you make a great point. Is he as dynamic as Hurts when it comes to using his legs? No, but he's better than Hurts as a QB. Mm-hmm. That's the position he's paid to play. He has a chance, if he has good games the last 2 weeks of the season, which I would expect he's going to be over 300 yards. Maybe not against the Broncos, but I would expect he's going to end up over 300 yards against the Raiders. They're going to be playing in Vegas. Weather won't be an issue there. And I still think that they're going to be playing for the number one seed at that point. Obviously, with 2 games left, I would expect that they're going to. So I think that he has a chance of becoming the all-time yardage leader from the position this season with a couple of good games.
Yeah, that's incredible. Now, it takes more than just the quarterback and the receivers. There's more to this offense than meets the eye. We're going to talk about the extras, the things that get you over that line here in a minute. But first, we are brought to you today by PrizePicks, our friends that have really the corner market on daily fantasy sports. If you thought Patrick was going to go over 300 yards last week and you took the less, that would have been the key for you. That's what PrizePicks is. They set a line. You choose whether that player goes more or goes less. You put 2 to 5 of those together in an entry, and you can win 10 times your money on that entry. It's not competing against other people. It's not setting lineups. There's no other projections. It's just that line and your thought, more or less. You can play on any major sport and a lot of sports that don't even make any sense to me, but someone someday will explain cricket to me. I just don't know when. Entries can be made in 60 seconds or less. It's easy, it's safe, and it's fast withdrawals in 30 states and Canada. Download the PrizePicks app right now at any app store or go to prizepicks.com to play daily fantasy sports. The first time you deposit, you get 100% of that. So if you put in 100, you get 100. It is capped at $100. So if you put in 10, you get 10. If you put in 100, you get 100. If you put in 1,000, you only get 100. So hey, manage your deposits there. But if you like that and you want to get into daily fantasy sports, this is the way to do it. Use our code Locked On for that. And don't forget, it is that code Locked On that unlocks that $100, 100% deposit bonus on top of it at PrizePicks.com. I think when we take a step back, this team started the ball game looking to run a little bit. And I think the selection of Clyde Edwards-Helaire a few years ago put so much emphasis on him that I think folks were concerned when he went down late in the season here. And how are they going to look? How is this going to evolve? Now, Clyde will be back eventually, I believe. We'll hope to get an update on him this week. But in the meantime, it's been McKinnon, the elder statesman, who still has a lot of juice, and the young buck, Pacheco. I am a little bit surprised that they haven't tried to work someone else in a little bit more, whether it be Rojo, who's been active, whether it's been the fullback Mike Burton. It really has gone from a three-headed monster to a two. Do you see that changing, and are you comfortable with the way that it's evolved?
I don't see it changing. Rojo got one carry, I think, against the Seahawks. Mm-hmm. I don't know if he was ever on the field other than that one carry. I don't remember seeing him back on the field at all. But Pacheco did go out with what looked like he was limping a little bit, and it was a little injured, I think, beforehand. So I think they were planning on having Pacheco out there that play. He couldn't go. Ronald Jones went in and did his run. I don't see it being anything different. I think it's going to continue to be a two-headed monster until Clyde comes back. And then I think they're going to get Clyde involved. Mm-hmm. The problem that I have, and this is what is frustrating to me watching this offense, is I don't think they're using Clyde correctly. I think that they could be using him and be way more effective with what they do with him on the field. And they could use him more they could split him out as a wide receiver at times.
Yeah.
Let him go out and get in space and go out there and be a pass catcher and try to get him in space, excuse me, where he can do some of those things and attack a defense that way. That's another added element to this offense that I think he has the ability to do, and they haven't really used him in that aspect, which is disappointing to me. And quite honestly, I get why they have McKinnon do what McKinnon does, and I understand why he's usually out in the flat or he's releasing in the middle and going, just being the check down that way. And I understand it. I get it. But I think he has the ability to do the same thing that Clyde is doing, or Clyde could do, and go out and run a couple of wide receiver routes just so it's different than what everything has been seen at this point.
I agree. I think there's a lot of possibilities of where this can go. Obviously, Jody Fortson's gone to IR. He's not going to be back until January at the very earliest. Blake Bell came back for just a brief appearance. So it really is down to Noah Gray. And Noah's really interesting because I think he's come on as a blocker. They fed him the first pass of the game against the Seahawks. And
yeah, who had that being the call?
Wasn't me, that's for sure. And he's come up with some fairly significant catches this week. And so that takes me back to the big question is when Clyde returns, we hope McCole Hardman comes back this week. You're getting all these weapons back. Where does the offense evolve from here? How do they take it to the next level? And for me, it's about picking and choosing the matchup that one of those guys has. And I think that what I see now is they have the ability to condense, go double tight at the very minimum. And if you're comfortable with where Blake Bell is physically, go into the triple tight, have a couple of running backs that you can then feel very good now, maybe more so than a month ago, about catching the ball. And I think that just adds another dimension that is harder for defenses to track and allows them to condense a little bit in the postseason when things are going to get cold, unless they end up inside.
I'm really curious, and I'm just thinking outside the box right now, why you can't run like almost a wishbone type situation where you run three tights. Well, I'm talking you run three tight and two running backs, have McKinnon and Clyde on the field at the same time.
Yeah.
You could do that with Pacheco as well, but you're not throwing him the ball near as much. If you have Clyde and McKinnon on the field, you can throw the ball or you could run the ball. It doesn't really matter. I just think that there's a lot of different things that they can do, especially with the three tight end set. And Blake Bell is not a guy that's going to go out and catch the ball, generally speaking. We know that. But he is very effective blocking, and they like using him in three tight end sets. So a situation where you're taking the wide receivers basically off the field in a position that they've really struggled at that wide receiver position for most of the season, it would not shock me to see them to go to a situation where you don't have a wide receiver on the field, and maybe you're sitting there with two running backs and three tight ends, which looks like a running formation, but it doesn't have to be with the players they have on the field.
Mm-hmm. I personally am looking for orbit motion from Noah Gray and see what we get out of that. I'm throwing wrinkle after wrinkle after wrinkle. And that's not to say that these next 2 weeks aren't important, because against the Broncos and the Raiders, you have to solidify. You have to keep pace. You have to be there in case the Bills stumble and you can secure that first round seed. But you also have to have an eye on what you're doing in January, whether that's in a wild card weekend or whether you get the bye. I feel like this offense is coming together in a way that's going to allow them to be more diverse.
You have to play for the future. You have to keep things at this point. I don't think you can go out and you can do additional things that you normally would want to be trying. I don't expect Kansas City to be pulling out trick plays against the Broncos or against the Raiders, because I think at this point they want to save them for the postseason. Yeah. And I will say this, although I really hated the announcers on Saturday, one of the things I did like that they brought up, and I know we've heard this many times, but Mahomes and Tony and Travis Kelce, and I'm sure McCole Hardman's involved and Juju's involved. They all go on special teams plays where they're not involved, and they go and try to come up with plays on Thursdays when it's special teams, and they're not in the special teams stuff that's being done. Mm-hmm. They're off on their own side trying to come up with plays to bring to Andy Reid. That is the mark of a team that is fully bought in. They're wanting to come up with their own things. And we know Andy Reid is willing to let them do that type of thing. And I'm okay with that. I know that you hate some of what we've seen at times because it just doesn't make sense for the time and when it's pulled out at times. And I completely agree with that. But it's great that he is allowing his players to buy in as much as he is. And he is definitely a player's coach that wants to get his players as bought in as he possibly can, and giving them the ability to go create plays and try to figure things out to bring extra elements to this offense is great.
Yeah. And it's another thing, much like they did with the running back situation this last ball game, the bus tendencies. Because Andy's not drawing these plays up. They come from a different spot and a different point of view, and that changes everything and makes it harder to defend. They're going to.
But Andy's looking at the plays. Mm-hmm. Andy's looking at him. Nagy's looking at him. Bieniemy's looking at him. They're all probably making little tweaks and little things here and there on these plays. But I agree with you. Andy's not the one designing them, so they don't have that tendency of something that he would design and something that he would normally run. Yeah. You look back and you look at the Super Bowl, the Rose Bowl, what was the Rose Bowl left or something like that came out of nowhere. I'm sure that didn't come out from one of these Thursday deals, but I know that there have been other plays that they've done this season that look like it would be more of a Travis and Mahomes type of play than it necessarily would be Andy Reid.
Yeah, absolutely. I look forward to seeing more of that, and we're going to be more diverse. We're going to see what Matt thinks. He'll be back with us tomorrow from ChiefsDigest.com. Make sure you're here for that. Hope you're having a good week as we get ready for the New Year's holiday, as well as the next Chiefs game and all the bowl games that are coming. And then it's draft season. Look out, folks. But this team is squarely facing the offensive evolution into the playoffs. We're here for it. Hope you are too. If you would like, sub and hit the bell on YouTube, we'd appreciate it. Leave us those reviews at Spotify and Apple. We appreciate your time today. Enjoy it, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.